The NBA returns after a 4-month hiatus, but some other issues are getting more attention than the games. One issue is related to the NBA's training camp in Xinjiang. A nurse from a Wuhan hospital died after falling from a high building. There had been conflict with her supervisor over the handling of patients during the virus outbreak. Extreme weather hit Shanghai, over 20 lightning strikes per minute and lasting 3 hours long. A rainstorm hit Shanghai on the Yangtze River. Residents test positive for the CCP virus in the largest residential area in Asia. And in the western Xinjiang region, authorities are sealing people's homes with paper and telling them not to leave. And 12 pro-democracy candidates are barred from running in Hong Kong's upcoming election. Meanwhile, Hong Kong police arrested 4 students under the new security law. The youngest is 16. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Wuhan is becoming a top word trending online again. A nurse in Wuhan hospital fell from the 13th floor of the hospital building and died this Wednesday. She had conflicts with her supervisor and revealed something going on behind the scenes in that hospital during the pandemic. The hospital issued an announcement to express their condolences, but didn't offer any details of what happened before the accident. The hospital also refused to show video from the surveillance camera because it was, as they said, broken. According to Chinese state-run media, Ms. Zhang worked in the Department of Cardiology in Wuhan Xiehe Hospital. This is one of the designated hospitals for treatment of the CCP virus in Wuhan, with more than 8,000 staff members. During the pandemic, Ms. Zhang had a conflict with Liu Yilan, director of the nursing department. In January, on her social media account, Zhang said that Liu asked nurses to take samples from patients for virus testing. But nurses did not receive any training on how to do it safely. Zhang said she wished to help in the fight against the virus, but she wanted to wear protective gear. And she appealed to other nurses to rally together to call for Liu to be removed from her position. She also wrote that doctors hardly went into the wards to check on the patients. Everything was done by nurses, and they stayed there for 8 hours without eating, drinking, or using the bathroom. Other staff of the hospital posted during the outbreak photos of medical personnel making masks and protective gear themselves, even from a trash bag. The Weibo account of one of the CCP mouthpieces, People's Daily, also retweeted these photos. A doctor from this hospital posted similar photos with medical staff with self-made protective gear. A post circulating online is said to be from Zhang before the accident. She wrote to the chief nurse that she wanted to quit her job. She added that she was not afraid of death, but she did not want to die for leaders like the ones in the hospital. According to Radio Free Asia on Thursday, Zhang's parents went to the hospital to demand a reasonable explanation for her death, but didn't get any. A netizen does not believe Zhang wanted to commit suicide. He asked why would a mother of a 2-year-old child want to kill herself. Another netizen believed that if Zhang committed suicide, it was to fight against something. He questioned what had led her to take such extreme action. The so-called broken surveillance camera caught people's attention. A netizen commented sarcastically that surveillance cameras are everywhere, but they always seem to break at just the right time. Now we look at the CCP virus situation inside China. This wave of the outbreak has now expanded into 5 provinces as well as Beijing. Inside the city's Changping district, the Tiantongyuan residential area has been put under lockdown and is rolling out virus testing. That's after 2 people tested positive. The enormous neighborhood is the largest residential area in Asia. It's home to over 700,000 people. A local store owner said the patient was infected while visiting the northeast city of Dalian and later brought the virus when she returned to Beijing.
The infected person is an asymptomatic case, which is kind of scary. It's very hard to say what will happen. The entire building where the patient lives is now sealed.
A real estate agent in the neighborhood said the infected building is only 10 minutes away from Beijing's number 5 subway line, which runs along a north-south route and passes through the entire city.
Right now, if you don't live in the compound, if you don't have the permission ticket, you are not allowed to enter the compound.
Elsewhere, cities in northeast China have also seen cases rising. Ms. Yan lives in Beijing, but the rest of her family members are back home in Dalian. She explained that her relatives told her that her neighborhood was suddenly put under lockdown without advance notice.
Right now, it's very difficult to get groceries. Now, grocery stores are not allowed to open, and nobody is allowed to leave their house, so they just don't get out. They don't want to add burden to people, but if the lack of groceries continues, some people may have to sneak out. For now, my family still have some potatoes at home, otherwise they really have nothing left. My mother said some of her friends don't even have any food staples at home.
And in the western Xinjiang region, officials are sealing people's homes with paper and telling them not to leave. That's as authorities from the southern city of Fuzhou have announced wartime status after an infected patient from the north visited the city. The male patient reportedly visited multiple businesses as well as some tourist attractions.
If he is a super spreader, then the virus would have probably spread to our entire city.
The hotel he stayed in is under lockdown.
All of the hotel staff are now quarantined in the hotel. We can't go anywhere. I don't even dare to go upstairs now. The good thing is the customers don't really get out of the room.
Now to the floods in China. Heavy rain has been hitting the Yangtze River basin hard. Shanghai, a major financial hub, is located right where the river flows into the ocean. Shanghai suffered even more extreme weather on Tuesday. A sudden violent wind hit the area around noon, followed by powerful thunderstorms and lightning. According to Shanghai Center for Meteorological Disaster Prevention Technology, lightning struck over 4,000 times within 3 hours, averaging 23 strikes per minute. The person who snapped the video said the sound of thunder was very loud. They compared it to spring thunder, adding that it's been raining constantly all summer. Shanghai Central Meteorological Observatory issued an orange level alert for thunder and lightning, the second highest danger warning. At the same time, a yellow alert for heavy rain and wind has also been issued. According to the area's weather forecast, 10% of the streets and regions in Shanghai had accumulated more than 2 inches of rainfall. That's as some areas only heard thunder with no rain. A web writer has disclosed the dark history of 2 Chinese dairy giants and how they destroyed the country's milk product industry in the pursuit of profits. Huge numbers of netizens are sharing their support for the writer online, despite severe suppression from China's authorities and Dairy Industry Association. Earlier this month, web writer Wang Xiaoqi revealed the history of corruption in China's dairy industry. It centered around 2 dairy giants, Yili and Mengniu, and Chinese people have suffered the consequences. In just 10 days, tens of millions of netizens have expressed their support for the writer. But the China Dairy Products Industry Association wasn't impressed and denied the article's claims. The organization also pushed for Wang's article to be deleted and for his account on Chinese social media app WeChat to be terminated. The topic soon skyrocketed to the top of Weibo's most searched terms list. The site is the most popular blogging platform among Chinese users. Days later, Wang's social media account was deleted by Chinese authorities. Not long after, Wang posted a cry for help online. He explained he'd been detained by police in Shanghai, where he lives, and was in need of a lawyer. He updated to say he was home later that day, but that he had to lay low for some time. So what exactly did Wang write about China's milk industry? After combing through decades of their history, Wang accused the dairy giants of routinely adding various chemicals and additives to their milk products. Examples include fat powder, whey powder, among others, a compound often used to make plates and kitchenware. But this isn't a new discovery. Similar claims have also been circulating online. A 2010 article from major Chinese news outlet Sohu even questioned that if there are 14 additives in one box of milk, are you drinking milk or additives? Besides the additive abuse, Wang also wrote that the two companies managed to push their regulatory body, China Dairy Products Industry Association, to lower quality inspection standards. During a 2011 Dairy Industry Forum, chairman of Guangzhou's Dairy Association, Wang Dingmian, told a major Chinese media that China's dairy product standard have been kidnapped by a few dairy giants, and they have the worst standards in the world. Wang explained that the country's new standard, introduced in 2011, set the total bacteria limit to 2 million per milliliter. That's about 20 times the US and EU standards. The news triggered Chinese people's memory of the tragedies caused not so long ago by poisonous dairy products. 16 years ago, a huge quantity of fake milk powder found its way into rural markets in eastern China. The toxic product caused skull deformities in over 100 infants. The irreversible condition, brought on by severe malnutrition, completely destroyed their lives. Another disaster struck just 4 years later in 2008. That's when a dairy maker produced infant milk powder with excessively high levels of melamine. The harmful substance gave 300,000 infants lifelong pain and urinary stones. They're now referred to as stone babies. Ms. Jiang's child is a victim of the melamine milk powder. She said Wang's article listed the long-time dark side of the dairy industry, but nothing has changed.
The justice for stone babies has still not come. I knew it. This will never end because the evil has not been punished.
Zhao Lianhai is the father of a stone baby. His son developed kidney stones after consuming the poisonous milk powder and still suffers to this day. Zhao founded the Home for Stone Babies website to offer support to the parents of the sickened children. In 2010, he was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for what authorities called disturbing social order. On May 13th, he wrote on Twitter that Apple Daily contacted him to talk about a new discovery: the resurfacing of toxic milk products in a southern Chinese province. He said he's no longer surprised. The abuse of power under the dictatorship without freedom of speech and press, cruelty to its own people, even babies, will continue endlessly. For the affected kids, the tragedy is still unfolding, and the production of poisonous dairy products is still going on. Despite the ill effects, Yili and Mengniu are still the two dairy giants in China today. Reporting by Xu Wenhui, NTD News. In Hong Kong, 12 candidates have been disqualified from running for election by the government. They oppose the controversial security law that Beijing imposed on the region.
Hong Kong's government disqualified 12 pro-democracy candidates from running for election for the city's legislature. The candidates don't agree with the national security law imposed by the Chinese Communist Party. That's why they were disqualified. Hong Kong's government denied infringing on civil rights.
When the national security law was passed, I said that one country, two systems is finished. Make no mistake about it. And I think today we are seeing the results of the relentless oppression.
Disqualified candidates include pro-democracy activist Joshua Wong and some members of the Civic Party, which is a moderate old guard opposition group. But not only those. Earlier this month, an unofficial primary vote was held by the opposition camp. More winners of this vote were disqualified as well.
From the day the Civic Party was established till today, we have always been trying to achieve human rights, democracy, and freedom on behalf of the people of Hong Kong. And if it's because of our beliefs and our jobs that we're disqualified, then I am truly proud.
Hong Kong has disqualified candidates before, but not on this scale. The government also said even more disqualifications could follow. Pro-democracy activist Joshua Wong wrote on Twitter that Beijing shows a total disregard for the will of Hong Kongers and tramples on what he called the city's last pillar of vanishing autonomy. He added that it's all an attempt by Beijing to keep Hong Kong's legislature under its firm grip. The city's government is expected to postpone the September 6th vote due to the virus.
For the first time since Beijing's national security law went into effect, Hong Kong's police began seeking out those they deem rule breakers. Their target, 4 students. The youngest is 16 years old. Police say they were arrested on suspicion of inciting secession on social media. NTD's Juliet Song reports.
Hong Kong police arrested 4 students on Wednesday under the new national security law. The youngest of them is only 16 years old. This marks the first time that Hong Kong police actively go after pro-democracy activists under the new law. A senior police officer said the students belong to a group that incites secession on social media.
We found out that this organization posts in a social media about the establishment of a new parties that will promote the independence of Hong Kong.
The police declined to reveal the organization's name. A youth group posted on social media saying 4 of its former members were arrested and are now detained. The group advocates for Hong Kong's independence but disbanded in Hong Kong in late June. They said overseas members of the group will take over all affairs and continue their mission. Police said the organization breached the law the moment they posted on social media about Hong Kong's independence, and anyone that likes or follows the post will risk being arrested. A Hong Kong resident thinks the arrest is a form of intimidation.
Their most important goal is to keep people from speaking their minds. Basically, it's a crackdown on freedom of speech and on people's political views.
A Hong Kong political commentator said it's hard to predict what awaits these students, but it could be hard for them to get a fair trial.
I think the whole world should support them, not to support their opinion, but that they should get fair and humane treatment. But I'm not too optimistic about this.
He said the Chinese regime is testing the waters to find out the international response.
I think the incident is a bargaining chip. The Chinese authorities will look to see the reaction it draws internationally. If they take a soft stance and don't respond, then the party will continue and become more aggressive.
Prominent pro-democracy activist Joshua Wong said one of the arrested students was followed for days before his arrest. Juliet Song, NTD News.
Now we turn to sports. As the NBA returns after a 4-month hiatus, it's not just the return of the games that's getting attention. A new bombshell report by ESPN alleges the NBA has a history of human rights abuses at its training camps in China. According to the report, at least 2 coaches left after witnessing Chinese coaches physically abuse young participants. One of them called the training camps a sweat camp for athletes. The NBA has gotten at least 3 reports of physical abuse against players. One incident involved a Chinese coach allegedly throwing a ball at a player's face before kicking him in the stomach. Another incident involved heat exhaustion. The program was launched in 2016. Coaches were also shocked to find out the players weren't receiving an education in China. One of the training camps was located in Xinjiang, an autonomous region. The area has come under increased scrutiny for human rights abuses against the Uyghur Muslims, an ethnic minority in the area. An NBA deputy commissioner and COO said the league was not aware of the human rights issues in the area when it launched the program in 2016. According to the report, one American coach was detained 3 times without just cause. A former league employee described his time in the Xinjiang program as akin to World War II Germany. The NBA has since shut down the Xinjiang training camp. ESPN's report also went into detail about how the training programs were under the control of the Chinese regime. A former coach told ESPN they were basically working for the Chinese government. The NBA and China have come increasingly under the spotlight after a tweet last year. Back in October, the Houston Rockets general manager posted on Twitter in support of Hong Kong's pro-democracy protests. Despite later deleting it, there was a massive backlash from China. State television stations pulled the NBA games from their lineup across the country, costing the league hundreds of millions of dollars. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver later apologized to China. Though Vice President Mike Pence criticized the apology, accusing the NBA of acting like a wholly owned subsidiary of the authoritarian regime. Even now, as the NBA plans to return post-virus, CCTV is still refusing to air the games. Amid the scrutiny, U.S. lawmakers continue to question the league's business ties to the Chinese regime. Earlier this month, the league came under fire after customers found out they couldn't order custom jerseys with the words "Free Hong Kong" printed on them. The league later responded, saying it was a mistake and the ban was lifted. But a few days later, NBA pulled all customizable gear from its store. Senator Josh Hawley called for NBA Commissioner Adam Silver to testify under oath over the league's stance on China. In a letter, Hawley asked Silver why league players could wear certain political messages but not others. Hawley said no amount of profit can justify collaborating with a regime for which violent suppression and enslavement are routine tools of governance. Hawley urged the NBA to take a stronger stance towards the atrocities happening in China, saying the league's refusal to address such matters speaks volumes. The NBA has since issued a statement saying only some social justice messages are allowed on players' jerseys. Hawley said in a tweet that it read more like lawyers in Beijing drafted it. China's banks and regulators are banning citizens from investing and trading in precious metals. Investors are flocking to safe haven assets while authorities try to stop another potential trading disaster.
The push to limit risk comes as gold prices hit record highs, sparked by Chinese investors hunting for safe haven assets over concerns of rising CCP virus cases, high equity valuations, and a falling US dollar. Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, ICBC, China's biggest lender, says it's barring clients from opening new accounts for trading precious metals. Agricultural Bank of China says it's suspended new businesses related to gold, while the Bank of China says it's freezing new account openings for platinum and palladium trading. Asia's largest gold exchange-traded fund saw its assets under management skyrocket more than 68% to almost $1.7 billion this year. In April, investors were caught off guard when Bank of China settled a crude oil futures trading product. Oil futures collapsed into negative territory. Thousands of Chinese investors lost their investment and some even owed the bank tens of thousands of dollars. A wealth management analyst in Shanghai warns any further gains in gold could spur more speculation despite regulatory attempts to tamp it down.
China was another topic at yesterday's hearing. One lawmaker singled out Google's CEO, asking why the company would help the Chinese military develop better systems, but have ethical concerns about working with the U.S. military.
All four big tech CEOs were asked about whether the Chinese government steals technology from U.S. companies. Representative Greg Steube said he was looking for a yes or no answer. But the responses were a mixed bag. The CEOs for Apple and Google said they didn't know of anything being stolen from their own companies. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg came the closest to a direct answer.
Congressman, I think it's well documented that the Chinese government steals technology from American companies.
And Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos said he's heard many reports of it, but he hasn't seen it personally. Representative Matt Gaetz asked Google's CEO about accusations that Google is helping the Chinese military develop better systems.
General Dunford says that your company is directly aiding the Chinese military, and Peter Thiel, who actually serves on Mr. Zuckerberg's board at Facebook, said that Google's activities with China are treasonous. He accused you of treason.
He asked Pichai why an American company with American values would directly aid the Chinese military. Pichai denied the allegations.
Congressman, with respect, we are not working with the Chinese military. It's absolutely false.
The hearing was the last step before the Antitrust Committee issues its final report. It's likely to come out in August or September.
And that's all for today's China in Focus. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.